Hey, what's up guys? Luso here, Team D Plus Gaming. I'm here to show you my updated Dark World profile for the September 1st ban list. So, Dark World's kind of had two cards hit in it. The EEV virus is now down to one, and so that hinders the virus build of Dark World. And so I built it more for speed this time than for viruses. And then the other thing that was hit was card destruction. Now, I mean, that was a great card when you had it in your hand, but then it was only one card anyways. And so it doesn't make too big of a difference. So first off, getting into things, you have 3 Brow still. So Brow is the card where you discard it, you get to draw a card. And so just draw power for the deck. Then you have 3 Snow. With Snow, you get to, when it's discarded, you get to search for a Dark World spell or monster. And so with that, it's kind of your searcher for the deck. Helps you get to what you need faster. You have 3 Grapha. With Grapha, when it's discarded, you destroy a card on the field, and then once it's in the graveyard, you get to, if you have a Dark World card on your, Dark World monster on your field, you can bounce that back to hand to special summon Grapha. And so with Grapha, you want to protect him from being banished. And so you need to watch out for bottomlesses or dimensional prisons and things like that, because that's what your opponent's going to try to hit in the deck, is Grapha. Next up, I have 1 Beige and 1 Silva. When these are discarded, they are special summoned. And so before I had 2 Silva, but with Beige, you can normal summon it in addition to special summoning it by the effect, and so that actually helps you bring back Grapha more often. And plus, with only having the 1/5 in here, you don't feel obligated to run rank 5s in the extra deck, which does free up room for you. And so I've actually been finding that Beige really helps out of a lot of situations. Kind of the advantage to running 2 Silva was for the virus build. Silva is inherently a deck dev target, and then with a field spell he became a DEV target, and so he's really useful in that respect. But I mean, with less reliance on the viruses in this build, Beige is definitely more viable. Next up, I have 1 Trance Archfiend. So when it's summoned, you get to discard a card from hand, and it'll go up to 2000 attack, and then with the field spell goes up to 23, which makes it a deck dev target. Plus, when you discard a Dark World card by his effect, it is just that, it's an effect, not a cost for his effect. And so you do get their effects off of it. So that's good. Plus, when he leaves the field, you get to grab one of your banished monsters. And so you are constantly banishing things with the field spell here, and so that really helps out a lot. Next up, to Tour Guide. Tour Guide is best utilized in this deck just because you have 3 Brow as targets, and so you can summon Tour Guide, special summon Brow, and then you can bounce Brow back for Grapha or go into a rank 3. There's a lot of versatility with Tour Guide. Plus, it's a fiend which you can discard or banish if you need to for Gate's effect. Then, kind of moving on into the spells here, you have 3 Gates of Dark World as the field spell. With it, it gives you draw power, so you can take and banish a fiend from grave to discard a fiend from hand to grave, which then gets their effect, and then you get to draw a card. And so I mean, that's a lot of draw power. Next up, 3 Dark World Dealings. So with this, you take and draw a card to discard a card. So of course, being part of the effect, the discard part being listed second, you get the effect of the Dark World monster. Plus, again, it's just more draw power, it makes the deck smaller. Get to what you need faster. Next up, you have 3 Drag Down. So Drag Down is kind of a key card in this deck, because this deck is all about prevention of your opponent. So you actually drag down, you get to break into your opponent's hand, you get to see what they have, to get ready to Mind Crush it. You get to kind of destroy any strategy that they have. You get to pull key cards right out of their hand. And then your opponent's doing the same thing to you, only usually you set all your spells and traps before doing that, and so you just have essentially Dark World monsters in your hand. And so when they're discarded, you get their effect. And plus, again, you get to draw afterwards, so it replenishes your hand. Next up, 3 Upstart Goblins, makes the deck smaller. And plus the extra 1000 attack, or 1000 life points to your opponent really doesn't matter, because you still have the OTK potential. You can go big really fast. Next up, Foolish Burial. You can use it to send a Grapha to the grave, so you can get it back to the field faster, or you can take and send like a Brow or something that's not quite as essential to the grave, so you have Banish fodder turn 1 for Gates. Next up, an Allure of Darkness, just extra draw power. Gateway to Dark World. This one allows you to special summon a Dark World card from your graveyard. The cost is you can't special summon again that turn, and so I mean this is kind of like your Monster Reborn in the deck. You set that face down, and then to your opponent's turn, you can special summon something to stop a direct attack, or you can special summon or like one of your lower monsters like Brow or Beige, Snow, something like that, to their end phase. Then your turn bounce that back for Grapha. Next up, like I said before, card destruction was hit. So right now I've got Tecton Into the Void. So with this, if you have 3 or more cards in your hand, you can activate this to draw 1 card. Then during the end phase, you have to discard your entire hand. And so with this card, it's really easy to utilize to your advantage. So you use it to draw a card, so get an extra card in your hand. Then you can take and kind of go off, have your turn as normal, and then at the end phase, just set all your spells and traps, and then let all your monster effects go off and go crazy. So your opponent really doesn't see that coming, and it's really crazy advantage for you when it works well. And it does work well, I should say. And last but not least, to round out the spells, a Dark Hole. Now we can clear the fields. Just a good card. Next up, traps. Start up back to the Reckless Engine. So I mean, these are more something you set, and then you wait until you have 2 or more to activate, or you take and you can chain it to an MST. These replenish your hand really well from Into the Void. So I mean, Into the Void, you kind of lose some hand advantage during the end phase. You can activate Reckless Greed to kind of replenish your hand before your next turn. Running 2 Mind Crush, just because you do break into your opponent's hand with drag downs, you do still have a virus where you're looking at your opponent's hand. And plus, a lot of decks still search. So I mean, that's a really good card. And the other thing is with Mind Crush, if you call it wrong, there's really no harm done, because they discard a random card from your hand, which, I mean, usually when you play it, is going to be a Dark World monster, and so then you get the effect off of it. Next up, one of the new techs to this deck is Skill Drain. So I'm running 2 of those. With Dark Worlds, you don't use any effects on the field, really. Granted, you use Tour Guide as one, and Trance Archfiend, but those are kind of secondary things that you do if you need to. But, I mean, beyond that, everything else activates in the graveyard. So, Skill Drains are more of a defensive card. You wait till your opponent detaches from an XYZ or gets ready to activate the effect. Then you just take in Skill Drain to trap, you can chain it, pay 1,000 life points, and just negate everything. It ruins a lot of decks. Running the 1 Eradicator, Epidemic Virus. Most decks run either spells or traps. It usually hits something. If not, you can always side it out game 2, because I mean it's not taking up a bunch of room in the deck. And to round things off, 1 Compulsory Evacuation Device. I mean, just because you can use this to save your Grapha from being banished, or you can use it to mess up whatever your opponent's doing. And so that rounds up main deck to 40 cards. Next, going into the extra deck, I'm running 1 Black Rose Dragon, which I'll get back to later. This is for use with some of the cards in your side deck. It's more of a game 2 or 3 type of thing. Measure Rhythm helps you get over big monsters. Zen Mains, it's a wall. Tempo, just in case you run into Ophion. That's kind of the main reason he's here. You can take, and when he's summoned, even if your opponent has some way to destroy him, like Torrential Tribute or Bottomless, you can chain his effect because it can be activated in either player's turn. So he's really versatile that way. You have Leviair, just because you are banishing things with the field spell. Giga Brilliant raises everything's attack by 300, and so I mean that can help you go into, well, it can turn Beige into a deck dev target. I mean, there's just some plays that can help set up. Leviathan, 2500 beater. Acid Golem, 3000 beater. That just kind of depends on what you need. Acid Golem's drawback you have to watch out for is you can't special summon while he's on the field. Gyraga Cowboy for the rank 4s. Maestroke, kind of a wall plus a Book of Moon if you need it. Photon Pappy does just the opposite. It flips things face up. Utopia, again, just kind of a stall. And then for the rank 8s, you have Heliopolis, helps you destroy things. Tachyon Dragon helps negate effects. And then Zombie Stein, I was just Massive Beat Stick helps you out a little bit, but it's more just for the 4500 attack. And then I'm going to show you what I have for the side deck at the moment. To start things off, Spirit Reaper is kind of a wall in case you need it. You can sit on Spirit Reaper for a few turns. Then I'm running a Fabled Raven still, in addition to a second beige. So for me, a big thing I do games 2 and 3 is I will side out a Trance Archfiend and Silva, so they have 2 beige main decked and then Fabled Raven for a tuner. So with Fabled Raven, you can discard beige to summon it. It'll bring Fabled Raven's level up to 3, and then you can sync 7 for Black Rose. And that's huge because in Dark World, after game 1, your opponent's starting to set everything on the field because they don't want anything left in their hand for a dragged down or mind crushed. They just don't want to have that liability, and so they assume that the field is safer. Then when you tech that into it, you destroy the entire field. Then not only does your opponent not have a hand, they don't have a field either, and so they're just top decking things. Next, I have a second Trance Archfiend in the side deck, just in case you need it, in case your opponent starts playing weird things and trying to banish a lot, or, you need an extra discard outlet. Next, 3 MST, just because, Macrocosmos, Defissures, those are still a thing. Return from a Different Dimension, that can help you out. You can help you bring on a nice OTK. It is a high cost, high reward type of card, though. 1 Deck Dev Virus, just because there are a lot of decks that it still hits, but there's still other matchups where it doesn't do anything. To me, 1 EEV main decked is more effective than a Deck Dev, although Deck Dev does hit all hand traps for the most part, except for Gores. So that it is useful. It still has a place in the deck, but to me, EEV is still more effective. Next up, your 3rd Mind Crush, in case your opponent likes to search a lot. Solemn Warning helps you negate things. Your 3rd Skill Drain, in case you need it, in case it's really helpful to that matchup. Rivalry of the Warlords, you can run that or Gozen. Rivalry just happens to hit more this format. And then 2 Dark Smog, and so that way you can help, or it can help you banish things out of your opponent's graveyard. Plus, it does give you a discard as well. So the thing is, with that one, it just doesn't replenish your hand, but at the same time, you're banishing things from your opponent's graveyard, like for a Fire King's matchup or Lightsworn. That can be really beneficial. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any comments or suggestions for me, please let me know in the comments below. As always, like and subscribe. D+ Gaming signing out.